Okay, guys, welcome back. When you say JDBC, which is an application program interface, which is using Java programming to interact with the database. For every single database, I need to download specific jar files, or say specific JDBC driver. For example, right now we're working in Postgres. That means you have to download the JDBC driver for the Postgres, and of course, whatever operating system that we have. If you try to use MySQL, that means I need to download the JDBC for SQL in order to allow me to connect with the Postgres. The MySQL using Java and etc. Okay, for every single programming language, for every single database management system you work with, you have to download the specific or the appropriate drivers which allow you in order to communicate with X, perform queries, updating data, and retrieving data. Okay. JDBC supports many features. Okay, allow me to query data, update data, and also get the result of the query data back. Supports also metadata retrieval. We're gonna see this one later. We can get data when you define. By the way, when you say metadata, that means I mean data about data. So give me, this is like a schema. More details about the construction structure of the data itself. How many tuples do you have? How many relations do you have? Which one, or for every single relation, you can specify, for example, what are the attributes stored there, what the data types, for example, and also you can get more information like whether they have, which one is going to be the primary key, which one they have the foreign key, and etc. And more details, more and more. Okay, so JDBC, there has some way we're going to see that how can you perform that to extract this kind of information. Remember, you can't get all this information if you have direct access to the database. Because if you have direct access to the database, you can take a lot. For example, if you have a PG admin or the SQL installed on your machine, so you can, let's say, log in with the user that had privilege. So then you can, get all this information. But remember, when you build your application right now, when you use let's say, a Blackboard Ultra or whatever, or let's say when you log in your email, we are not going to do select a star or whatever. We have like pre-programming interface allowed to us in order to facilitate this job for us. But beneath this nice interface, the thing's gonna, all the commands, all the structure gonna be converted somehow into SQL, then it's gonna be passed to the database, executed, get the result, then somehow it's gonna be translated to, let's say, variables can be understood by the programming language we use, then it's gonna be displayed as, let's say, nice, interface or forms or whatever. Okay, so the model for the communication with the database first, in order to do this one, first you have to open connection. You have to connect to the database. Okay, then after that, you have to create a statement. We're gonna go over the steps one at a time, okay? So keep in your mind, in order to work with Access database through any programming language, first, you have to connect to this one. Actually, we do this one when you click over the PG admin, the system gonna take care of this one automatically. Remember that you're gonna open, then it's gonna say, okay, give me the password of the Postgres. If you try to do this one, BSQL, the command line to show when you execute this one, the system gonna say you connect to whom? To the database, localhost. Then after that, we specify, for example, what the user did, what's the password. Then after that, it's gonna connect you, right? But here we need to write our code somehow. Some statements, commands, which allow me to connect to the open connection. Then after that, when you execute the statement, you have to create a statement. When you say statement, any SQL statement, okay? Then after that, you are going to execute the query. It depends what you wanted to do. Whether we're gonna, let's say, update, modify the data, or you're gonna just retrieve or select, perform selection, in other words, or insert or whatever grant or whatever command, or create a table or relation or whatever. Okay? Then after that, after you execute that, now we're gonna fetch the results. Then after that, definitely any programming language, you want to have a connection, you open many objects, etc. You need to figure out a way how can you handle any error. It might be a core, okay, or it might be throw. Okay? This is when you work with just an example. How can you give you an idea how the code is going to look like? This is, the JDBC code for older version of the Java. This is if you have, it depends on the driver. Remember I said you have different drivers, you need to download your jar files, which allow you in order to perform or actually use these commands, connect to the database, etc. via Java. This is the old one version. If you have the previous one, you see that this is the way that we used to do that. I'm not going to go over this one. Let's show you what we're going to use today. So generally speaking, whatever programming you have, I'm going to do what first? I'm going to connect. I'm going to show you how can you perform this one. This is the open connection. And then open connection, you have to tell, for example, what's the URL, for example, where the database is going to be stored. Whether the database is going to be located at the local machine, local host, or the database is going to be at specific, let's say, server. So you have to give me the IP address. What's the type of database? Okay, we're going to go over this one in more details. Then after that, you have to tell me, for example, what's the username and the password. Okay? Login username that you want to log into. We log in using PostgreSQL and the password, whatever your password that you have. Or maybe you're gonna see at the end of today's lecture when you go over how can you create different users, groups, etc. Maybe you have another user to connect this one. Okay. Then after that, you're gonna create a statement. Then after that, now we have to do two things. Either gonna what you wanted to do here. What kind of a statement? If you're going to see later, if you try to just retrieve the data, that means you're going to execute, to say, a query. Remember, query, that means send and perform select, and you're going to expect to get the result back. Then after that, remember, this is going to be like a tables, different data types. We need to find a way, how can we transfer this one into corresponding, let's say, into, let's say, a variable or data type can be used within the programming language, our programming language. I'm going to go over this one later. Or another type of the query that you are, I would say, SQL statement you're going to execute. It might be executed data update. When I say execute update, that means in this case, I don't expect to get returned the data. I'm going to insert, delete, update, create, say, new schema, add, etc., or alter schema, add, etc. So in this case, I'm not going to use a query. I'm going to say use different, command or different, say, methods or function allow me to perform that. And this is the way how can we handle what's it called, the exception that we get. Mainly we're going to focus on the SQL exception, okay? So far so good. And we're going to use, try with resource, which is going to be easy for us because remember, try with resource, if you're familiar with Java, which allow you in order to do what? Whatever you open with a try, the system automatically going to close after you're done. Yeah? Because all these resources is going to be available. So let's take a look, deeper look, okay? So just what I mentioned, if you try to update the database, this is if you try to execute a query, fetch whatever, or display the result, etc. Don't worry, now we're gonna take a look, step by step. How can you connect to the database? So this is, just an idea, how the code looks like, something similar here. Something similar to this, okay? So first, how can you connect to the database? How can, after that, shipping SQL statement to the database system? Remember, so here, just speaking, this is going to be your code. Whatever, Java, Python, okay? Then in this case, you need to figure out a way what. I'm going to use JDBC, for example. If you use a Java, or if you use a Python, then you see they have like cycle, PG2. Anyway, you have an interface here. Here, when Java, for example, when you collect, let's have a simple example. Let's go with a simple example like that. You write your code, okay, and here you get, for example, you ask to say, search for student. And here you say, please enter student ID and search. Something like this. This is my interface. Okay, so the user is going to enter a student ID, let's say 5 or 500. Then when the user clicks search, what I need to do here within my code, I'm going to collect this information. You're going to say, okay, now we need to send somehow like a SQL statement. Say select star from, let's say, student, where student ID, let's say ID is equal 500, something like this. I'm sending this one as an instruction, okay, as a statement. So the JDBC, for example, it's going to say, oh, it's going to translate this one, it's going to convert, we're going to produce whatever, send SQL statement to the database system. Execute it there. Then the result here is going to be repeated to the JDBC. Then JDBC is going to apply or send this one to my code. Now your code is going to define the way what? Inside this code, once you collect or get the result, you need to figure out a way in order to iterate over every possible element or tuple in the relation. Then after that, either going to produce them, either going to build a report or create a report in order to show me the result. Okay, so back to the slides. How can you do that? What we try to do here? How can you ship this one, send it the sequence? So it means we're going to show you when you create to collect, for example, get the student ID. When the student ID or the user click over search, you need to figure out a way how can you create a SQL statement, then send it to the database. Okay? Then after that, you need to have to handle the exception and the resource in general. Then once you get, if the query is going to be, you send SQL query, then you expect to get the result. Even if empty, you need to figure out whether it's empty or whether it contains data. Select the star from the instructor. Okay? So then after that, retrieve this one. Generally speaking, we're going to retrieve this one using the result set, like special class that contains the result. We're going to talk about this one more details. Then after that, hopefully this one is going to be next week. We're going to see how can you perform different statements. I'm going to show you a simple way to how to create SQL statement. Then after that, you're going to say, this is not secure. We prefer to use what's called the prepared statement. Okay? Then after that, we have another kind of statement we call callable statements. It looks like you can use SQL statements in order to call, let's say, a procedure or function or method. It's already there, exists. Okay? Then after that, we take a look, how can you use or extract information about the metadata? Now it looks like you get this information about the schema using the programming language that we have, okay? Remember, you can do all the job if you have direct access to the database. But when you build database application, we expect that the user, you must hide these old comp listing for the user. The user must have fancy forms, etc., interfaces, and the user just type and enter and click, then you get the result. Okay? Then you're going to see some other features. If you're interested to start working with the Python, please, this is one of the greatest websites that I've found so far that's going to help. It contains everything about the Postgres. Okay, allow you using, for example, how can you connect to the Python? So you can, if you are familiar or interested in working with the Python here, so just click over this link and follow the steps. As you mentioned, mainly I'm going to focus on Java. Next week, after done, I'm going to give you one lecture, maybe half an hour, go over the Python. I will give you the codes with simple codes, allow you in order to connect, perform, the main features. And the rest is going to be, depends on you. Okay? And as I mentioned, the class project is worth total 100%, right? 25% from the class project, it depends on the way that how could you do phase 3, how could you programming, okay? So it's not too much. You see that 75% of the class project depends on the phase 1 and 2. And I'm going to grade phase 1 and 2 later at the end of the semester. I'm going to ask you to submit everything, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So phase 1 and phase 2, definitely I expect from you, are not going to submit the one that has mistakes or errors, if you have. So you need to double check or reflect to the comment that you got or feedback that you received from the TAs in order to enhance your phase 1 and phase 2. So we give you a chance until the end of the semester. Okay? And the phase 3 is worth 25%. I think I need to share with you, the criteria that I follow once I grade your phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So you are gonna expect to see what kind of features or what I'm looking for, okay, and how I'm gonna grade your phase class project. How can I connect to the database? The first step you're gonna perform, you have to open connection. How can you open connection? They get an open connection using what is called, driver manager dot get connection. You know that you create an object. And this object gonna have driver manager dot get connection, which is gonna allow me in order to what? To call this method, and this method is gonna establish a connection to the database. And using what? The information is going to be associated with the get connection. Remember, this is not coding class. So you see that I'm gonna just give you the high level, how to connect the database. How can you perform this command? And give you simple code to perform that. In order to go deeper, if you're interested to go deeper, then I'm gonna lift that to you. Anyway, so this one is gonna connect or establish connection to the database by using whatever database URL. So you see that I'm going to specify the URL that you're going to connect to the database. When I say the URL, that means you have to tell me whether you are going to connect to the database that's located in your local machine, which our case right now, or sometimes when you build your real application, you're going to connect to the database that's going to be located at specific IP address. So you have to specify that IP address. Okay? Then after that, username and password. And also, you have to specify, tell me what database you want to connect to. I'm not going to open connection to any database. No, you have to tell me exactly what's the name of the database that you're going to connect. In your class project, maybe you're going to say you store your database in project database or whatever the name of the database. Yeah, flight or whatever. Yeah, or flight database. Here in our class, we're going to mainly focus on show you how can you connect to the university database. Okay, let's see more details. How can you for that? So here, connection, open user get connection method from the driver manager class. And this class, manager class, must be imported from this, package, java.sql. How can you get this package? You have to make sure that the jar file for this class is available there in order to allow you to connect that. I'm going to show you next slide how can you perform that. Okay, so you have to import java.sql, and the java.sql contains all the classes that you need in order that facilitate that, allow you in order to connect to the database and then perform whatever command that you need to relate to the database. Again, the URL where the database is going to be connected, the exact IP address, localhost or whatever. The name of the database contains the name of the database. So you're going to see something, it's going to contains also the port number used, okay? User, the login user, and the password. And all of them are going to be as a string here. So the user ID or the user identifier is going to be as a string, and the password must be a string. Okay? So let's take a look here. This is an example. That's what we're gonna do when I'm connected to my local, database. And that's what we're gonna do too, because all of you, hopefully, you download the Postgres in your local machine. So I'm gonna say connection, okay? I create, first I need to connect to the database. So that means I'm gonna create, an object from the class connection. And this object gonna be created using what? The class driver manager dot get collection. And here I'm gonna specify this link. I'm working with the JDBC. Okay, this is my driver column. Okay, then after that, this is the PostgreSQL. Then column / or /, then localhost, / anyway, localhost / university. So this database is going to be located, this is the database name, and it's going to be in the localhost here. Okay? Then sometimes you're going to specify what the exact IP address if you want. You can put this one here. Okay? The username, login information, and the password. Of course. This is the password only for a class. We're going to see later there's better ways. For the security reasons, it's better not to hard coding your password inside your code. But right now, this is for simplicity. Yes, let's do that. Okay? As I mentioned here, each database is going to put a product or database management system. Okay? Support JDBC driver. All of them support that. And also, any database management system that supports JDBC allow you to use this one in order to connect to the database. It's going to provide like a specific driver in order to use it. So for the Postgres, I have to go to this link in order to download the corresponding JDBC driver. So if you click over this one, I just sent you the link here. Let me share it with you. Then I'm going to download this driver here. So this is the Postgres JDBC driver. By the way, when you click over the website, make sure that this is connection secure. If not, then do it. Okay? Anyway, so here you see that they give you some hint. It depends whatever Java that's stored in your machine here. Okay? My Java is above 8 and above. Okay? So I'm going to download the JDBC 4.2, which is this one. Okay? This is the most recent one. If your Java is old, but I doubt if anyone has old Java, installed in his machine. So anyway, you download this link and keep this one in somewhere, a specific folder, because I want to get back to this guy, right? This is if you want to use Postgres. If you use MySQL, etc., you have to say JDBC driver for MySQL. So they're going to give you another link, different jar file. So this is only works with what? With Postgres. Okay? Let me go to open my Eclipse, and I'm going to show you with you how can you perform that. How can we connect to the database, and how can we add the jar file to MySQL? To my Java project or class. So the simple thing, I'm going to show you the simple code. How can we just connect to the database and test my connection? My computer is too slow. Starting since yesterday, I'm not sure what's going on. So every time I open Eclipse, it's going to take longer. Anyway, so this is the simple code. Okay, what I've said. This is my URL where the data can be stored. The only thing you need to change the whatever database you want to do. But for class, illustration of the class, we're gonna connect to the database. This is username. This is the password. Okay. Then after that, we're gonna say try connection. Just connect to this database. Just to want to test whether it works or not. Then after that, once this one there is no problem, I just print statement just to check whether connection is okay or not. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, this is the driver must be here. Okay. I'm going to do what? I'm going to delete it. I'm going to show you what's going to happen if the driver does not exist. Okay. It's too slow. I give the command, I'm still waiting. Anyway, so if you right-click on the class project that we have and go to the build path, guess you cannot see this one, but in the recording it's going to be there. Right-click, go to the build path, configure build path, go there, and you're going to see that under the class path, you have to specify, you have to add the jar file that you just downloaded and put it into what's called under must be available under or add it to the class path. So here, as you're going to see in the recording, actually you cannot see right now. I don't know why, but in the recording you're going to see that the Postgres is available. The jar file that's just the download is there. So I'm going to remove it. Okay. Then once it's done here, let me refresh here just to make sure that show you that's what's going on here. It's not there. Okay. What if I execute this code? This one try to connect to the database and gonna say, oh, I cannot. There's no suitable, driver found in whatever displays. So because this one, I'm gonna say, okay, please go to the class path and you're gonna find JDBC driver. Use them in order to allow you in order to connect to the database. Okay. So if it's not, so how can we add that? Right-click in the class project that we have. Do the same thing. Go to the build path. Configure build path. Let's put this one here in the recording. Then inside that, you have to go to the class path, then add external jars. Then you have to go to the folder where you download whatever the file that, the jar file. Then I open, apply, then your file. Let me refresh this one. I know, for when I share this, only show me the main Eclipse window. Anyway, if I run my code, if you take a look here, you're gonna see jar file. Reference. Libraries. We're gonna see that the Postgres is available. So since that here, if I execute my code, and you're gonna see here, they're supposed to say connect to the Postgres server successfully. Okay, that means I managed to connect to the database. So this is the first code. If you work with the Java or even with the Python, you have to test whether you have connection, you managed to connect to the database or not. If you connect, then everything the rest is going to be easy. Okay. So back to the slides. Then after that, we're going to spend maybe a few more the rest of the class just working with the different types of the query that we have here, or the example that how can you connect to the database with different ways. So far, so good, guys. Okay, so we did this, everything's fine, and we manage, here I summarize what I've did right now. You have to put this one in the class path. If you have this error message, that means the jar file is missing. You have to add the jar file in your class path of the project in order to allow you in order to using or working with connecting to the database and working use the JDBC in order to, as a driver interface, to connect to the database. Okay, So that's the code. The first one, I'm trying to do what here. You're going to see that the name of the class that used here in this part. So you can, for every slide, you know exactly which the corresponding class that you need to double check or work with. Okay? So let's take a look at the second one here. You can either, of course, this is your choice, okay? The way that organize your code. Maybe you can create a method that can, say, called connect, then you use this one in order to connect the database. That's your choice, not mine. Okay, now I connected the database. What's the next step? I need to create a statement, SQL statement. Because when you connect to the database, you need to execute something. Yeah, to send something to the database to execute it. How can you send that? That means you have to create what is called a statement. When I say statement, that means SQL statement. Okay? So I need to go to the class statement, create an object from this class, and this object is going to be, let's say, initialized or initiated by, let's say, calling another method. Yeah, through the connection. Remember that when you connect the database, let me go back here. I'm using connection, Cont, in order this is an object that holds an instance of this class, connection. We're also going to have like interface with like pointer, or let's say, use an object in order to what? To simplify or to represent this connection that I just made. Then I will take this connection, okay? I'm gonna call through this connection, this answer, this object, a method which allow me in order to create a statement. So I'm gonna say connection that I have dot create a statement. Create a statement that's gonna create a new statement. It looks like create a new statement and put this one into the statement object from the statement class. This is how can you create a statement. Okay? Good. As I mentioned, we do have a different types of the statement. I'm going to show you the symbol statement here, the symbol version, which you are not going to use in your application. Statement used to implement simple SQL statement. There's no parameter here within this statement. Here, we do have another type of a statement, that's the one that I encourage you to use in any web application. Okay, otherwise you're going to see your code is going to be vulnerable to the SQL injection. We're going to talk about this one later. You can use what's called prepared statement, which looks like a statement, but it has an ability in order to add what is called, the parameter to the SQL statement. We're going to cover this one later in more details. It looks like you have a placeholder, question mark. Then after that, you're going to pass the data later. For simplicity here, it looks like when you create a prepared statement, you're going to send two different statements. The first one, the statement without parameter, without data. Select the star from, let's say, instructor where the ID equal nothing. Okay? Then after that, you're going to use another channel in order to pass the data. By doing that, we can prevent anyone to try to inject anything in our code or line of, let's say, application. I'm going to cover this one later. Another kind of statement that allow me to know that it's called callable statement, which is going to do what? It's going to execute sort procedure. Well, later we're going to talk about the procedure. Let's say a procedure looks like a function. You can create a method of more functions, and you can call these functions later using this method. Okay, and definitely it depends on the procedure. You're going to have like parameter. You have a pass data to that functional procedure. Let's say we focus on the statement first. Understand how it works. Perform some different types of execution, query, and modification in the data. Then after that, we're going to see how can we make it better, more secure actually. Okay? So I create a statement, which in this case is said, let's go back here. When you create, here, I create a statement here. That's my statement is ready here. Good. So far, at this point, we didn't execute anything. We just create a statement. Okay. Simple statement. Now, I can execute the statement, and we have two different ways to execute that. Either we're going to use what is called execute a query, or you're going to use execute update on what's called the statement object that you just generated. What do you mean? What's the difference between them? The execute a query that allow me to perform what? Select whatever. Select a statement. So I'm going to perform a query, send a query, and expect I'm going to get the result as a table, as a relation. Okay, select a star from whatever, or select ID, name, and etc. from whatever relations that we have. Okay, where and having aggregation file, whatever. It's normal query. Okay, the second one. So this one is going to return what's called result set. It looks at data as a table, so I'm going to see how can we get access to the result set, how can we extract the information. The other type of execution, we call this one the execute update. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to execute what's called non-query language, or SQL, sorry, or statement. What does that mean here? I'm not going to expect to get result. I wanted to modify the database. Maybe I'm going to insert, delete, update, create statement, alters the schema, add, etc. Create index, etc. So I'm not gonna, select before what's called query statement. I'm not gonna get result. I'm just adding or modify the existing schema that we have, or let's say the content of the few columns or attributes in the relation. Okay, so execute a query, that means select. And if you're gonna stick with the select, you are fine. Okay, so you're gonna return a result set. Execute update, which is going to return the number of tuples affected by this command or this statement. If you said, for example, delete star from the relation R, execute to say update. When you execute that, how many tuples has been deleted or have been deleted from this relation? How many? For example, 10, 15, you're going to return 10, 15. When you say insert, for example, one tuple, then the system is going to say 1. When you say, for example, create relation, etc., so the system, if you data definition language, it's going to always return 0 in this case. If you create a relation, alter, add, say, primary key, etc., then in this case, the system or result is going to be always 0. So we give you anything other than 0, you know that there is an error, so we can act in this case. We're going to cover this one more details, okay? So let's start with the first one. Execute update. So assume what I'm going to execute update. When you have create statement, let's go back here just to make sure that we're on the same page. I create this statement. Then I'm going to say statement dot. Either I'm going to say execute query, or I'm going to say statement dot execute to say update. Okay? In both of them, you have to tell me what's the SQL statement that we're going to execute it. Because right now we did just create, prepare everything. Now when you start to execute, now you have to tell me, for example, what's the SQL statement that you want to execute here. Go back. It looks like I missed one slide. It's here. Oh yeah, here. Okay. So when you say statement dot execute update, now we have to put this one between, let's say, string. This is for this method, required to have only one parameter, or it's going to be string parameter. What's the value that we're going to pass here? It's going to be select into instructor values, whatever the value that you perform. This is normal SQL state. Or another thing, maybe you're going to do this one separate. I'm going to say, for example, string SQL equal select into whatever. Then after that, here when you execute this command, here I'm gonna say statement execute update SQL. So it's gonna be easier for us to understand. Okay. So for the executable, we require only one parameter, the string. If you wanna, and there is no return value, maybe the return value is gonna be a number. Okay. You can enter say result if you want. Then after that, if you wanna, for example, to see what's the result here, in this case, the result must equal to 1 here. Because it's only one tuple is going to be affected. Yeah, because I insert only one tuple. If you insert multiple tuples, that means it's going to just return the number of tuples affected by this statement. Okay? Statement that execute a query here. Now I'm going to execute a query. Oh, execute a query, that means select. Okay. Select, that means I need to find a way somehow to collect or to receive the result after I'm going to execute this command. So here, for example, you can say select. My SQL is like select a star from the instructor. Okay. Then after that, I'm gonna say statement dot execute a query. This is my SQL. When this one is gonna be executed, expect the result always gonna be from the data type result set. Must be. Okay. So create an object from this result. Let's say class result set. Then after that, now the result after you execute this one gonna be a relation gonna be stored in the RS. Then we need to figure out a way, how can we extract the data? How can we display the data that we have here? So far, so good, guys, hopefully. I will get back to this one later. Now, once we get all the information, this is what you call the exception and resource management. Generally speaking, we can use a try with resource. Resource was the easy way to perform that. I didn't need to close all the or create or delete or close, whatever connection that I have. So the simple thing, I'm going to say try and put everything between two parentheses here. Open connection, create a statement, and execute the square. Then after that, put the result in the result set. Then after that here, I need to find a way, how can we handle the result? How can we extract the information that's stored in the result set? Okay, of course we can catch, the rest if they have other, let's say, non-SQL exception, you can handle them somehow here. But here I'm just focusing the SQL. So here, if any error happened here, the result is going to say, for example, give you whatever error message corresponding, what kind of error happened here. Okay? Good. So now, I execute my query, and the result is going to be executed in what is called result set. What's the result set, actually? The result set is like a table, or the data can be as a table stored there, which allow me in order to extract the information from the data, or the table here. Okay? So again, the SQL statement that execute here is going to retrieve or extract or read data from the database. Okay? And the data is going to be returned where? It's going to return into what is called result set. Okay? So the result set is going to contain, it's like a table. Let me go over this one because we need to understand. If you understand the result set, then we don't have a problem. We're almost done from this part. The result set is going to contain the tuple that you can execute. Let's say select the command, for example, select ID and name, for example, from student. Okay? When you execute this query, it's going to be the result set RS. Okay? So this is the result set RS, something like this. It's going to be what? It contains tuples, okay? And each tuple is going to contain, let's say, a set of attributes. In this case, it's going to be two attributes. That's what I received. So it's going to be the ID and name. I can tell you tuple data. Yeah. And this it depends on how many, let's say, students. Assume that we have student ID 1, 2, 3, Alice, Bob, Eve. Okay, for example, we have a little. Okay. Might be there's not every single tuple or column is gonna have to say have a value. Some of them might have no value. It's fine. I don't care. This is the most important thing. This is, the tuples, or they say tuples is gonna be with the attributes gonna be displayed in the result set. Now we need to have what? How can we access them? So right now the result set that we have, it has only two counts, the ID and the name. In order to get or extract the information from the result set, you need to iterate over every single possible element inside this one. Okay? So we're gonna do what? The result set is gonna use what's called next method. In the result set, I'm gonna say, for example, result set dot next. You know the result set is gonna do what here? It's gonna be called before the first tuple is gonna be accessed. So just speaking, we put this one, we say while, let's say the result set dot next has a value somehow. Okay. Then what we're gonna perform here now, the result set at the beginning, it used to be before the first column. Sorry, before the first tuple. Okay. When you call this one for the first time, you're gonna say, okay, now I'm the beginning of the tuple here. I'm pointing here. Now you are ready to start access this tuple. So always it's gonna be what? As long as it's gonna return true, it's gonna forward to the beginning to the next tuple. Okay? At the beginning, it's gonna be point at the beginning of the whole relation or the whole result set. Point to nothing. When you call this one the first time, you're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna move here to the beginning of the first tuple. Now what we need to do? I need to get access to the data. If you said, for example, another rs.next is gonna move to the next tuple, beginning of the next tuple, beginning of the third tuple. When you call this one after 3, it's going to say, oh, there is nothing here. So it's going to be false. Okay? Then the while loop is going to be stopped. I'm going to exit the while loop. Okay? Good. How can you, since, let's say, do this one, the first one, since I'm said, why the rs.next is point to the first one, at the beginning of the first tuple. Now you need to do what? You need to find a way, how can we extract this data stored here, and how they start the second data that belongs to the second column, and the third column, and the fourth column. I'm going to use the get methods. Thanks God we have many get methods here. Okay, it's going to be XXX, whatever. We have many get methods. You're going to see get integer, get string, get whatever data types you want. Many data types. The simple thing here, we can say convert whatever we have into string. It's going to be easy thing to perform that. Okay, so let's do this one different ways. First, I'm going to say, you can say system, or let's say, for example, what's the ID here? What's the data type of the ID you want it to be? Integer. Can I do this one? Assume the data type of the ID is integer, and this is going to be string, yeah? With a char, whatever, 5, for example. Okay, just an example. Okay, this integer and this char. So in this case, in order to access the ID here, I can say here, I'm going to say rs.get, I'm going to use integer. Integer what? Remember, the column of the pointer here at the beginning, first of all. Okay, so what we need to do, you have to use the column attribute name, or the column name or attribute name, in order to access this column. I'm going to say, give me whatever you have under this column. And this way you can do integer student ID is equal. I put this one in the whatever variable, or you can print out with it. Okay, then the second one, a name here, yeah? You can see string student name equal. I'm going to say give rs.get string and give me whatever stored under that column for this tuple. Because remember, right now I'm in this column, on this tuple. Okay, so I can't, whatever I'm going to execute is going to be executed and extract the information that in this tuple. I'm going to say, string, sorry, name. Okay, you can print them. Once you get back to the while here, the while is going to say, okay, let's jump to the next one. Oh, the next one is here. Oh, see a different color. Now jump to the beginning. Now when you perform this operation, you're going to say, give me whatever you have in the ID, which is going to be 2, and give me whatever under stored, or the value that's stored under this column, the second column, it's going to be name, it's going to be Bob. We have a different way. Another way, I can either specify, for example, the name of the attributes, or maybe I'm going to say the position of the column. I can say, okay, give me, let's say, whatever in the first column. Give me whatever in the second column. This is the nice thing. We can use the number, especially if you said select ID name, or let's say we have, let's say, count, or let's say the average something. I'm not sure what the attribute name is going to be stored here. Okay, the name of attribute. So maybe here we have the average column. Maybe you're going to say it's like double or whatever. You can say get double, get float, whatever. And you're going to say, I'm going to say the third column. So we have a different way. How can we extract the data? How can we access the data? Clear? I'm going to show you exactly how can you perform that using the, let's go Eclipse. I guess it's better to go to Eclipse, which is going to be help us to see how can we perform this operation. So let's take a look at the second example here. By the way, if you can see this one, you can enlarge or zoom out from your Blackboard Ultra. So you can see this one large. Anyway, this is what. It's going to open the connection, select all the information. You see that department name and the average salary. From the instructor, group by the department name. It's normal query. I put this one in the string, I mean, whatever string variable. Then after that, open connection, the same way that we did here. Create a statement. Now I'm going to say execute query. And here you're going to specify only one parameter. Say, okay, this is you have to take the statement. This is my query that we need to execute. Okay. Then after that, just to print out, because I know I'm expected to get, say, department name and the budget, for example. So I need just, or actually, it's not the department, it's department name, and this is average salary, yeah? Yeah, it's not budget, we say. Okay, we can change this one. Then after that, the most important thing here, you see that this is the result set that I have. I'm going to iterate over every single possible value, as long as the value we still have a tuple. We need in this result set, then that means we can extract information. What I've did here, I know that we have two things. The first one is going to be the department name, because I know the first parameter, the attribute name, and the second first column. And the second one, I'm not sure what it is. I can use a position here. So start the first column is going to be 1. The second one is going to be, let's say, whatever, I mean 2. And the third one is going to be third column, and etc. Okay? Let's execute that and see. As I mentioned, I know my computer is too slow, especially when you're using Eclipse. We'll figure out what's going on with that computer. Anyway, this one's supposed to be a measure that we have like result set that be displayed. Yeah, you see that the result, the average salary. I don't care about, of course, if someone will say, oh, it's not clear, it's not well formatted, etc. Yeah, this is your choice. I mean, your job. My job is just to give you simple code. Then now you can make it more fancy. I mean, you can attract it if you want to have nice results at the end. You see that? That's what I have for every single code. Well, how about if I said 1? Can you change this 1 to 1? Yeah. This means give me the first column and the second column that pointed by the current, I mean, tuple that I have. When you execute this one here, run the second, and this is going to take time, but it's going to be produced as, yeah, you have just a numeric. We give you the position for this number. Anyway, so you have 2 options, 2 choices. I encourage you to do what starting, I mean, you have time, yeah? I'm going to upload this one today. I do have more 2 classes more today. Then after that, I'm going to upload this one maybe by the end of the day. So you can download, you can play around with them. At least I want to make sure that you can manage to connect to the database. And please start early. Start working in the class project. Phase 3. Phase 3 is time consuming. It's easy, but it's time consuming. Okay, let's take a look at the other example 3. All of them in the slides, by the way, display that. Here, I'm just get all the information from the instructor, select the start, account, and here you notice that when you perform this command, how many tuples do you expect to get here? When I execute this command, or this query, how many tuples do I expect to get from the result? 1, 2, 3, 1,000, depends on the number of instructors that we have in this relation. 0. Anyway, this is aggregate function. Okay, so it's going to return only 1 tuple. Because what you said, select count to start. So you give me only 1. Exactly. 1 result with the count. So expect only we have 1 tuple. It's going to be the result. It might be empty, it might be null, it might be whatever, 0, whatever. But at least the result is going to be 1 tuple. So I know in 1 tuple. Do we need to while loop? No. You can do while loop, but since it's 1 tuple, I know because it depends on the command that you have. So as I connect, I said just do the rs.next, jump to the beginning. Always you have to use this one because at the beginning when you have the result set, it looks like you are away from the first tuple. You have to tell the system, please point to the first tuple that you have, or to the next available tuple. At the beginning, there'll be point away, is not positioned before the first tuple. Then after that, .next, you're gonna say, okay, the pointer is gonna be in the beginning of the first tuple. Now we're gonna say, since you have tuple, do you have the name of the attribute here? Column, I'm not sure what the name is gonna be here, so I'm gonna use the position. Use the position 1, get the result, put the count, then I'm gonna display with the number of instructors here. I think it's supposed to be 50, 51 because I play around this one, yeah. So the number of instructors in my case 51 because we perform some insertion, we add 1. In your case, maybe it's gonna be 50 if you didn't modify the data. Okay, so far so good. So it looks like it's easy. Again, connect, create a statement, then after that, execute the statement. And now you need to find a way how to retrieve the data, how to handle the data, or extract the data from the result set into the way that your code can understand. Good. What's the next step? If we take a look at this command here, I'm going to select some information, the same thing here, but here we have multiple attributes, okay, from the instructor. So the same thing, open connection, create a statement, and execute the statement. Then after that, you need to iterate over every single element or stored in the relation or the result set. You need to find a way to extract and retrieve the data. Then you need to either display, either to do whatever you want. Here we just print out. Here we mixed here. The first one we said get string. All of them you can set all of them are going to be get string. If you want them as a string, because I want to use them or print them as a printer statement, you can use whatever get the statement. Let's see, show you here dot. Oh, you can't see. If you say .g, you're gonna see that we have many gets. Okay, get byte, get cursor name. I didn't care this one. Let me get integer. Get tuple, the whole tuple. You can take the whole tuple. Then after that, you can extract this tuple. Get the string. get array, get the big decimal, blob, get bytes, get date, get whatever data type you want. Okay, so don't think that only get string is the only one available. And here again, it's going to be the ID. If you have the name of the attribute, put this one as a string. If you want to go with the position, it's fine. You can go with the position 1, 2, 3, 4, and everything is going to be fine here. Okay. I know I mentioned that I need to go with the transaction, so but it looks, this is funny. So let me continue. I think 5. Then after that, go to the transaction quick. Then well, done here. This is if you try to perform, let's say, execute what's called. It's not query. I'm gonna execute update. I'm not gonna perform select. I'm not gonna retrieve the data. I'm gonna modify the data somehow on the other side, on the inside, of the server side. So here, open connection, create a statement. Now we need to perform what? My statement. This is a different way how to perform that. I'm just playing around with the code. Just show you a different way how to perform that. When you create a statement, my statement is going to what? Create a new table. And this table is going to contain an information. Yeah, some instruction. So I said, for example, statement that execute update MySQL, for example, equal to 0 if this case what? Remember we talked about if you perform data definition language. The result, query from this type. The result return successfully execute this query from this kind of type of data of this query is going to equal to 0 if it successfully managed to do that. Otherwise, it's going to give you any other number. Okay? Yeah. When you perform this one, I know that since create table, if it returns 0, that means perfect. If not, there's something wrong. So I've checked this one. If the statement that execute update, execute this one, perform this one, and the result equal to 0, then the table created successfully. Else, the table creation fails, for example. This is an error message just to help you, okay? Of course, you are not going to show this one to the user. You need to figure out a way how can we recover from this error. But here, just to show you that if there is an issue or whatever. Okay? Thank you, guys.